It's strange to think these days how much that little introduction impressed me back then. This is the surprisingly sinister introduction to Come on, get on with it. Penguin Tower. Whoa! Sudden mood shift in the music there. Don't worry, there'll be another one along in a second. This is quite famous, as these things go. This was the one that got away. There was some sort of communication breakdown between the guy who actually sort of brought it over here and the coder, who was, for reasons that will become very obvious, Finnish. This demo never got the full game released of it. As you can tell, it's Bomberman, but with a twist I've never seen before or since for that matter. You do not want to blow up those eggs. If you do, when they hatch, the penguins will be much more quick and aggressive. Some of the later levels make it impossible to actually do anything without blowing up some of the eggs a bit, which I'm not quite sure whether that's a good design decision or not. From the cold light of all this distance in time, I think if this was released as a proper game, the AI of the penguins might have to be beefed up a bit, or the levels made a bit more tight. Because as it stands, they just kind of wander around aimlessly, and they're kind of a pain to actually kill, especially early on when your bombs are as feeble as they are at the moment. Still, a tremendous shame that this never got a proper release. Oh, and did I mention the coder was Finnish? Right then, in Techie tips this month, how to control a sprite via joystick using machine code. Woohoo! But never mind that. For peak technical stuff this month, we have this. This is, get this, Colour Me Bad. Oh yes, the C64 equivalent of a technical PowerPoint presentation. You can sort of get colours different to the C64's base 16, either by flicking between them quickly or alternating between them every other line. It's something to do with the PAL standard. The A stands for alternate, and it averages out the colours over lines. NTSC, which was earlier, didn't do this, which is why the colours could be a bit dodgy. However, I've not actually turned on PAL emulation here, and it didn't look particularly good when I did. But trust me, it did work quite well on a crappy portable TV. Come on, you knew he was going to turn up at some point. This is Dizzy. Fantasy World Dizzy, to be precise. This may need some explanation. Dizzy was massive, at least in Britain and bits of Europe. And Russia, oddly enough. I've played some fan games from there. I think because of all the Spectrum clones they had. There were tons of these games. I had both compilations of Dizzy games back then. Played them to death, and yet, I don't know anyone who remembers them unreservedly fondly. On the face of it, they're charming little arcade adventures. Pick up objects, wander around a big flick-screen world, solve puzzles with them. But then you have the lousy jumping mechanics and awkward platforming bits with moving platforms and clouds that you sink through. And there's always the collect 30 coins to get the proper ending nonsense, and some of them are very well hidden. It doesn't help that the C64 versions were usually, or most often, direct Spectrum ports, at least graphically, which is why there's this rather nice, admittedly, border around the actual play area here, due to the specky smaller screen size. Ooh, a coin. This at least scores points for not being Treasure Island Dizzy, which had no energy bar or lives at all. You had to play perfectly in order to finish it. Hello Denzel! These are part of the Yoke Folk, Dizzy's friends, believe it or not. Apparently Dizzy wasn't originally meant to be an egg, just something that was cheap and cheerful and easy to draw and rotate around using their fancy Dan rotation software, which is why he rolls everywhere in an incredibly annoying way half the time. Oddly enough, a few weeks back they finished off and released the NES version of this Mystery World Dizzy. It was an aborted part of Codemaster's attempts to break the NES market, apparently. Anyway, I'm not playing all of this because I will become furious. So here's a couple of pro tips. Don't pick up the bottle of whiskey, you can't put it down, Dizzy will drink it instead, and it reverses your damn controls. Also, apparently on the screen with the Dizzy Hawk, you can press the inventory button and it will reset to the top of the screen and not kill you. I've never managed to pull it off though.